These two used to hold hands together, showing off my fishing skills. And we are here to replace this timing chain. Welcome back to another everyday value mechanic video. In today's video we have 2014 BMW 1 Series with 1.6 N13 engine that requires new timing chain. Also trying to save customer money, I gave bad recommendation that cost extra money to customer. Stay tuned till then to find out what went wrong. I start by disassembling cowl assembly. Start removing this rubber strip, these two covers. There's a push clip for this side rubber bit. I put it on the side. By looks with these two side covers not being secured properly, typically they are 3 10mm turn clips to remove them. Now I'm using E12 socket and input gun to remove these 4 bolts. And now these two upper strut braces can come out. Last item to remove is the lower cover that is held in place by 7 10mm bolts. Once those are removed, the cover can be pulled out. Let's not forget this breather pipe. Now I loosen up these Jubilee clips. This turbo solenoid disconnecting. And mass airflow sensor. Now I can remove engine cover, and also there's a 2 vacuum pipes that goes into the vacuum tank or vacuum reservoir that needs to be pulled off. Now the cover can come out. Here we can see where they connect. Next, this breather pipe. You meant to push the upper bit and lower bit on that clip and you can pull it out, but because I can't put my fingers there, I just pull the tension and use this prying pick to unclip it on both sides. I'll pull it apart from the turbo, this intake duct or intake pipe. Now lift the whole air filter assembly upwards from these rubber grommets. And then the whole thing can come up, but there's also another breather pipe at the bottom that also you need to push both sides to disconnect that pipe. And to remove this pipe completely, so it gives us a little bit more room to work, you just pull this clip on the side and pull the pipe towards yourself and it's gonna come loose. Now put on the side these 2 vacuum lines, the wiring and the camshaft position sensors. And also we can disconnect the wiring looms from the rocker cover if there's any held, and to give us a little bit more space later when we're gonna pull the rocker cover off. Now there's the one earth wire that needs to be disconnected from the engine cylinder head. And now we can disconnect the ignition coils, and for that you just lift the upper cover upwards and the wiring loom will, or the plug will want to slide out, and you just continue pulling apart till it's been disconnected completely, like so. Now there's also another air connection that is connected to the one of the rocker cover bolts, and as I try to remove it, as we can see here, it turned together with the bottom bolt, and if I continue to turn, it will possibly damage or snap the earth strap. So what I did, I put the screwdriver inside to stop from moving, and loosen with the 8mm bolt, 8mm socket, the 8mm nut. Once that being cracked open, you can just proceed removing it completely. If you can't put fingers to catch it, you can use the magnet to pull the nut out. Here we can see it's been disconnected. Now use the pliers to remove that, to pull that strap off. Now we can proceed loosening up all the rocker cover bolts. But I forgot to remove the ignition coils themselves. So before we remove rocker cover, we have to pull them out. And sometimes, well, typically most of the time, they are quite stiff inside. So you can use some prying tool or screwdriver to help you to pull it upwards. Just to be careful, if you're using the same method as I'm using it, remember the rocker cover is from the plastic, and applying too much force can crack it. So if you feel it doesn't come off easily, just try to find some different method. Now we can continue removing these bolts. And also there's two in the middle. And here I found out that one of them is quite soaky with oil, so it requires new rocker cover gasket. And now we can try to start applying some force on each corner or wherever you can put any prying tool to lift the rocker cover upwards. As soon as you get some air inside, it comes quite easy off. There's some wiring loom straps attached to it, so I just use screwdriver to pull them off. Now just take your time and slowly lift the upwards. So here I couldn't easily to pull it off because where's the ECU on the side, it was catching, the rocker cover was catching from the plastic cover. So here we have diagram, the lobes on the first cylinder should face, one should face 11 o'clock, another one on 1 o'clock, and that's gonna be your locking position, or top dead center. And also we should see the writings here on the camshafts facing upwards. So first I turn the engine somewhat in that area, so here we can see the writing, so it should be somewhere around here. So we also have to lock the crankshaft, and that is done underneath the car. So I lift the car upward and remove the belly pan or under tray. That is typically on BMW is held by 8mm bolts, like millions of them. Once that's been done, also find a souvenir. It is the cap from the headlights. So here we see the upper opening on the engine block. That's where we should put our locking pin. Here I use the camera to show you how it looks. So this is our locating where we should put our tool inside. So you can use a mirror, or if you have these cheap cameras on Amazon, you can get them for £30. And this is the tool. So this is my beautiful handwriting here, just to recognize, because typically these aftermarket tools coming with no writings on. So I just use the permanent marker to mark it which one I need. So we're gonna need this bracket and this one. Then this shorter locking pin. This is for the flywheel at the bottom to lock it. This is a pre-tensioning tool and 3 10mm bolts. So now we can lock it in. I'll put this locking pin in. It should completely be connected to the engine block, or the engine block. And now we can lock the camshafts as well. So here we can see the camshaft locking tool sits nicely on and flush with the cylinder head. And that's when you know that the locating is in correct position, and we use those 3 10mm bolts to secure it in place and preventing from camshaft turning or tool sliding off. And here we can see that is sitting completely flush with the cylinder head. And that's also in manufacturer specification saying that the tool must be flush. So whenever you lock it, always make sure it's sitting flush. If it doesn't, then you need to move or repeat the procedure till you get it completely flush. Here again I'm removing a little bit wiring away and this engine mounting bracket to give me space to remove camshaft adjusters. Now I disconnect the water pump friction wheel, for the plug, and then 3 10mm bolts. Now we can disconnect the auxiliary belt. You don't need to disconnect it completely, you can leave it there. Now the crankshaft pulley. And the tensioner. The tensioner is 27mm. Before you disconnect it, just put some rag underneath it, as the oil will come out. Even if you have drained the oil, there's still gonna be oil within. Here we can see it's tensioning the guide rails for the timing chain. And I forgot to put any rags underneath and oil starts spilling out. Then the panic kicked in and I quickly put the rag underneath it to catch any oil spillages. Once you crack it, typically it's quite easy to pull the tensioner out. And I felt it completely came apart. So luckily it didn't fall inside. So yeah, the tensioner shouldn't come apart like this. Usually it will come apart like this when it's done its job of tensioning the chain. So typically you pull out, it's gonna be like this. So now we put this pre-tensioning tool inside. So here you can see what's happening here. As you're turning it, it's tensioning the guide rail. And as soon as you start feeling any resistance, that's as far as you have to tension it. Now we can crack loose these two camshaft adjusters. And the crankshaft sprocket bolt. Now the guide rail bolts. There's two at the bottom, one at the top. They are two different types, but you can't mix them up, as one, the thread is on the wider side of the pulley like this one. These bottom ones has thread like a bolt, and the upper one was on this wider part. Now the upper guide rail is held in by two 8mm bolts. And the crankshaft bolt can come out completely. Camshaft adjuster pulleys, bolts. Also, I did not remove the crankshaft bottom pulley. So once you remove that bottom bolt for the crankshaft, you have to pull this guide as well out. Once that's been done, the whole timing chain assembly can come out in one piece. Typically it will come out in one piece if the rail is in good shape, but as we can see here, it's all cracked and broken, and the other piece is inside. They meant to come out together, they meant to be attached together. Once we put inside, you will see as the new one looks. So they're meant to be like this, attached together. Here we can see there's pieces broken, here's broken. So multiple pieces broken, and I've noticed there's one at the bottom of the sump. It took me time, but I managed to fish it out. So this big piece could block your pickup pipe quite badly, and this is the tool I use, as it's plastic, so you can't use a magnet. So I would recommend the customer to remove the sump and clean from all the debris inside from these guide rails, as the biggest parts I have pulled out. Well, there's only one was there, but there's also a couple smaller pieces inside still left that needs to be cleaned out from pickup pipe, as it can block your pickup pipe, and then you're gonna have oil starvation. Here we can see the new timing belt kit. I want to mention that these parts was supplied by the customer. You get new bolts. By looks of it is for the sump, as if you would change the chain for the oil pump as well. But here inside, today we're gonna do just a timing belt timing chain. This is new tension, and here we can see it's all in one piece and doesn't come out apart. And this is how they should be. So both guide rails, new crankshaft bolt, so here we can see how it is originally. There's two extra pins on each side that hold the both guide rails together. New chain, new bolts for the guide rails, washer, and silicone. Again, I believe the silicone is used for another engine where you have to when you put the rocker cover back on, you have to use a silicone where the timing chain cover sits together to the cylinder block or cylinder head. Otherwise it's gonna leak, but not on this engine. Here we can see these camshaft adjusters. There's markings X30 and N13 on both of them. So one is for the exhaust, or N35. So one is for the inlet and one is for the exhaust. So don't mix them up. If you're gonna mix them up, you're gonna have engine lights and all kind of other stuff. This is how you assemble the whole thing in one piece. Clip them together. And this is how they're gonna go inside the engine, like so. All assembly in one piece goes inside at the same time. Just don't rush it here, take your time, as in the end this is quite crucial for the engine to get this all correct. Using these camshaft bolts to get these two writings, so the in and X writing should be facing upwards, like 12 o'clock as per manual. I clean these guide rail bolts from any excessive oil. Here we can see the new bolts can go inside for the guide rails, and two bottom ones. Took me some time to locating, so we're doing one another, see which one gonna catch first. Torque spec for these bolts is 25 Newton meters for the top one, and 24 Newton meters for the bottom one. I don't know why they did that. That's how my instructions or my manuals is saying these bolts should be torqued. So if you go all of them 25, I don't think it's gonna make much of a difference, as long as they don't leak and they hold in place, so you're gonna be good to go. On this engine the crankshaft seal was leaking, so when customer asked us also to change this crankshaft seal as well. So you use a pry bar to pull the old one out. Here we can new one. Typically this new one gonna sit inside this tool to locate it properly, but I received it split, and anyway, because everything is completely removed, I can't use that tool anyway. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna fit it as it is, and I use the old crankshaft seal as tool to knock it with the hammer, and with the small tabs all the time I'm doing 12, 6 and 3 and 9 till it's flush completely with the engine block. Again, take your time, you don't want to do this job twice, especially if it's gonna leak again. So once it sits flush with the engine block, you're gonna be good to go. Now we can put this guide pulley back inside and the crankshaft bolt. Now we disconnect brake tensioning tool and we put the tensioner inside. So the spec for the tensioner is 80 Newton meters. Should be 18.81.4. Now install the upper guide rail. And the camshaft adjuster bolt spec torques is 20 Newton meters. Both are identical, both the same. And then 180 degrees. So that's 181 and totaling to 101 Newton meters. And this is 102. So roughly, if you don't have any tools to measure it, so 101 should do the trick. Again, for the crankshaft bolt is 15 Newton meters. And then 180 degrees. So this is gonna be quite a big torques, so I'm using the big torque wrench to torque it, so you can see the whole engine is twisting. So 308 Newton meters. Now the crankshaft pulley or dampening pulley can go back inside as well. And from this point onwards is just everything backwards. Crankshaft pulley bolts is 28 Newton meters. Plus minus 1 or 2 is not gonna make any difference. Now we can put the auxiliary belt back on while we are here. Now we remove the camshaft locking tool and crankshaft locking pin. And at this stage you turn the engine twice 360 degrees and get back to the locking positions. Put your crankshaft pin back inside and put the camshaft locking tool back on to make sure they're sitting flush with the cylinder head. And here I'm going to show you that my one is sitting flush without putting these 3 bolts. Now this friction pulley can go back inside. You can pull this pin outwards and it's gonna help you to put the pulley more easily on. It's gonna be out of the way and it's not gonna be touching the water pump and the crankshaft pulley or auxiliary belt. Now I can put this engine mounting bracket. Make sure you don't chop any vacuum lines or wiring loom.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna change the rocker cover. Here we can see it is quite old, and it was, when I was removing the bolts, we could see it's leaking. So all of these O-ring seals and the rocker cover was everything put in the same time, so everything is old. And as it runs through the heat cycle, so hot and cold, this rubber turns into the plastic, and that's when it starts leaking. Now the rocker cover itself. Here we can see it snapped. If it's new, it's not gonna snap. So this is how you know it's time to change these. I cleaned as much of any excess oil from the seats where I'm gonna put the new rocker cover and O-ring seals. I started by installing these O-ring seals, and here I noticed a slight hiccup. As I was putting on them, they went inside like they're supposed to, but they were not sticking out. So almost they drop inside, and I start thinking they should stick out to seal these holes properly, and I thought something was odd.
Don't these supposed to like stick out or something? Is that okay? No, you know these, because they feels like they sunk inside, innit?
No, they're not, they're okay. Okay. Put the gin in and put out the old one and compare it.
Oh, yes, as well, yeah.
Same thing, yeah, same thing.
As I compare with the old ones, they seem same, but again the old ones was squashed, so it's hard to tell. I asked my colleague what he thinks.
I pick it up,
And here I run into the issue. Here you can see they're completely different.
Hold on, it's not what I'm gonna do. Can you bring the other set?
Yeah, I'll send it back to Europe.
You did it already?
Yeah, straight, yeah.
Okay, then let's go home. This is the wrong one as well.
It's all wrong.
Yeah.
Why?
You meant to have these cutouts here, right?
Yeah.
And look, this has with these holes for the
Yeah, I don't have it, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, true.
So next morning I got the new set of the rocker cover. So what happened, I did not know the parts that the customer supplied had the rocker cover in it, and I ordered the day before rocker cover as customer asked to do as well. And when I opened the customer supply parts first time, the box, I've seen the rocker cover inside, and my colleague, he also saw it, and he said that we're not gonna require the one that we order, and again we could save some money for a customer, and we send it back. But then we had to order it again. Here we can see it's slightly different than the other one. And as I install the first O-ring seal, I could see it sticking out, and that's what you want. That means it's gonna sit snug against the cylinder head, and it's gonna seal it off. Here we can see how chunky these are compared to the other ones from yesterday. You can use some extension to push those bolts upwards, and then you fit the O-ring seal around them, and then the bolt's not gonna fall down. Now the rocker cover itself. So here you can see it has these openings to hold the rocker cover bolts. So to my understanding, they said that the customer supply is also for another engine. It could be possibly engine with the engine code N13, as they're quite similar with minor differences. And you fit the bolts and just go all around it. Remember that there is the one bolt where the earth strap is attached to it, so that has to be in that location there. All other ones, it doesn't matter, they're all same, but this one has to be there. Now the rocker cover can go back inside, and these are where the wiring loom is connected. It was catching to this bracket where the ECU is sitting. So as you pull it slightly away, then the rocker cover should theoretically drop inside. Just take your time. If it's too stiff, just take it back out and double check it if you have not chopped something. Once that's been done, I locate a couple threads with the hand, and this is the diagram how this rocker cover should be torqued. And again, this diagram is for this particular car, but here you can see, well, it's hard to see, but it is different. They're meant to be another bolt here where I'm touching now, but it wasn't there. So that is for the other type of engine. Could be N13. And the spec for the camshaft cover is 12 Newton meters.
Yeah.
Now these guides where the spark plug sits, I push them in as far as I can with the fingers, and then I use the socket to push them all the way in. Now the wiring loom can go back on with this 8mm strap, earth strap. I use the magnet to locate that 8mm bolt. Oh, not, I mean. Now the ignition coils. And connect the wiring harness to the ignition coils. Again, as you're gonna slide in, you're gonna see the upper cover is want to close down itself. So just help it by pushing it down. Now the camshaft position sensors. And this earth strap at the front with 13mm nut. This breather pipe. So lifted up this, I think it's a screen wash pipe. It has to go on top of the airbox. So here we can see where the breather pipe is connected at the bottom of that air intake duct or air intake pipe. So remove these grommets and put inside into the airbox housing. It's gonna be easier to fit the airbox housing. So here we can see where this screen wash pipe goes. Push it on the turbo, and now you can locate the airbox with these rubber grommets. Locate this pipe. Make sure that the bottom breather pipe is connected nicely. Connect the airmas sensor and the breather for the rocker cover, and we can put back on the cowl assembly. This engine strut braces can go inside. The side covers. There's a 10 mil like a twist bolts. They have to twist it 90 degrees to secure these covers in place. And there's a slot where this rubber should sit. This push clip back inside. It only has on one side, not on the other side. And we can start the engine. Once the engine is warm up, we also perform the oil change. Old oil filter out, a new one in. And again, customer supply his own oil, Castrol, which is very nice for these BMW engines. And now this engine cover with the vacuum reservoir can go back on. Let's not forget this breather, the vacuum lines connected as well. The under tray can go back inside once we check for any leaks. From the crankshaft that we changed, crankshaft seal, and the sump plug that we also disconnected. So, my bad advice to customer was not to purchase these camshaft adjuster sprockets, as in the past I have changed these chains and I never had an issue even when timing was off after tensioner failed. But on this job this was not the case, and after first repairs a new fault code came up, and a week later customer wanted to change these adjusters as well for his peace of mind, and after I replaced them there were no more fault codes. So my advice to save customer money in the end cost him more, but I talked my boss into giving this customer generous discount. And on this we have come to an end of another everyday valued mechanic video. Thank you all for watching. If this video was helpful I would appreciate thumbs up, and if you want to see more videos on car repairs, subscribe to the channel. Thank you all. Your valued mechanic out.